we had cultural activities happening in these institutes. So all in all, it was a better package. Hi everyone, welcome back to a new video, and in today's video I'm going to answer a question that a lot of people ask me when they meet me in person, or they would DM me the same question on Instagram. Language kaha se seekhe? And in today's video I will give you the pros and the cons of learning a language from an university or from an institute. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Before giving you the pros and cons, I want to tell you that the video will be in English so that the majority of people can understand it. Let's get into it. Starting off with learning a language at a university. If you do not know, I was learning Spanish at GRS department, Delhi University, and back then in 2013 2014 I have a receipt which I will attach. I only paid 800 or maybe 1200 rupees for one semester, and the total fee was for 3 years was 5000 rupees, which is very cheap. So the first advantage that I see of learning a language at a university, it is very cheap. ज़्यादा पैसे नहीं देने पड़ते हैं, आपका बहुत ही कम पैसों में एक लैंग्वेज आप सीख सकते हो यूनिवर्सिटी से. सो द बिगेस्ट एडवांटेज दैट आई सी इज़ इट इज़ वेरी चीप. सेकेंड बिग एडवांटेज ऑफ लर्निंग अ लैंग्वेज एट अ यूनिवर्सिटी इज़ दैट यू कैन चूज़ योर सर्टिफिकेशन. नाउ व्हाट डू आई मीन बाय दैट? अगर आपको सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स करना है आप सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स कर सकते हो. अगर आपको डिप्लोमा करना है आप डिप्लोमा कर सकते हो. आपको एडवांस डिप्लोमा करना है आप एडवांस डिप्लोमा कर सकते हो. BA ऑनर्स करनी है उस लैंग्वेज में वो कर सकते हो. उसके बाद आप मास्टर्स कर सकते हो. सो यू कैन चूज़. इफ़ यू वांट टू लर्न द बेसिक्स, आपको बहुत कम सीखनी है, सर्टिफिकेट कर लो. उसके बाद थोड़ी ज़्यादा सीखनी है तो एडवांस डिप्लोमा और डिप्लोमा हो गया. और आपको 3 साल वो लैंग्वेज पढ़नी है तो आप BA ऑनर्स और 2 साल और उसके बाद मास्टर्स कर सकते हो. सो यू कैन चूज़ which certification that you want, and I feel it is a great advantage if you want to learn a language. So when I was learning Spanish at GRS department, Delhi University, one great thing that I really appreciate is that the teachers were amazing. जो हमारी teachers थी, they were all PhD or MPhil teachers who had translated those heavy difficult Spanish books into Hindi or English, and that was great. Having great teachers is something that a lot of people do not get while learning a language. So if you are learning a language at DU, JNU, I can guarantee you, or maybe if you will get some great teachers who are well qualified. So one massive, I would say, it was an advantage for us. Now the next point that I'm going to talk about is, and that is the USP of learning a language at a university, and that is literature. When you start learning a language in DU, JNU or any other university, you are introduced to literature by the second year. And if you are somebody who's interested in literature, then you will 100% enjoy learning a language at a university. I personally did not like the literature part of a language because I just wanted to learn the language. But if you are somebody who likes it, then you should definitely learn a language at a university. And the last advantage or the last pro of learning a language at a university is that you can learn that language for 3 years plus 2 years. So if you are somebody who has made up their mind that I want to learn this language, I want to learn French, I want to learn Spanish or German, you would be learning that language with literature for good 3 years. And if you're somebody who does well, you can also do your masters in literature. So if you love the language, definitely learn a language at a university because you'll be studying that language for 3 plus 2 years. Again, I was somebody who wanted to learn the language. I just did my BA, could have done my masters, but again, it depends on you. If you want to do it, go for it. But I personally do not recommend doing masters if by the end of 3 years you want to get a job. Advantages के बारे में तो बात हो गई है. Now let's talk about the disadvantages or the cons of learning a language at a university. And the first problem that I faced was that the majority of class was not there to learn the language. A lot of them were just there because they got to know that after learning a language you can make a lot of money, which is somewhat true and maybe not true at the same time. Half of them were there because they were preparing for some exams or a government exam, and they thought if we take admission here, because it was not that difficult to take admission in GRS department, so that we will get our graduation and also at the same time we can prepare for UPSC or जो भी government exams होते हैं. And the third lot was there just to live the quintessential DU life. And then we had a class of 40 students, and I was part of that 5 kids who really had a objective or reason to learn a language. And I did not get the right atmosphere, because imagine if the 95% of the class is not interested in learning a language, then you are not able to really excel in that language, because while learning a language you need other people to talk to, people who are doing better than you, so that they can correct you can talk to them. But this was not the scenario in DU. So the biggest con or the biggest problem was that majority of class was not there to learn the language. And when it comes to the listening part of the language, we did not even have a subject for it, or we were not even marked down for it. And it was mind boggling for me, because when you learn a language, you want to speak well in that language, and you want to understand that language, what the other person is trying to say. And in our university, not just in DU, I would include JNU, IFLU, Jamia, wherever they teach a language in universities, is that they will give you text, they will teach you the language, they will ask you to do those exercises, they will take the exams, and the exams are written exams. But you are learning a language, and language, when you learn it, you want to communicate. Take the example of English. When you learn English, you want to speak well in English, you want to understand English very well. But now, when we are learning Spanish, French, or whatever language in universities, they expect you to just write exams. They can give you an 80. Somebody who's scoring an 80-85% can be horrible at speaking or maybe understanding that language. And I personally did not like it, because I wanted to talk to people in that language. So universities do not focus on the speaking part or the listening part of the language. Another big advantage of learning a language at a university is that you cannot just quit in the middle, because it is a 3 years, if you are doing your BA honors in a language, and it is a 3 years degree, your bachelor's degree, and by the second semester or third semester you decide, okay, I do not want to learn that language, I do not want to learn Spanish, I want to learn Italian, or maybe languages is not my thing, it is not my cup of tea, I do not want to learn languages, I want to do something else. You cannot just leave it in the middle that I know this much language, I can just quit, because it is a 3-year program, you have to go through it, and majority of students in my class were facing this problem. So if you decide to learn a language, be 100% sure that you're going to finish it and you will enjoy it. Otherwise, there is no point of learning or doing a BA honors in a language. यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के बारे में बात हो गई है, अब हम बात करते हैं प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट्स के बारे में. योर एम्बेसी इंस्टीट्यूट्स लाइक योर सर्वांतेस, योर ऑलियंस, मैक्स मुलर, others. I know these three, but let's talk about them. The first advantage or the first pro that I can think of while learning a language at these embassy institute is that you get native teachers. Personally, it is something that I loved, because I wanted to communicate with the native. I wanted to understand their accent, because I was learning Spanish, and Spanish is spoken in more than 20 countries. It is spoken in Latin America. I wanted to understand the Argentinian accent, the Colombian accent. So I wanted native teachers. I was learning Spanish from Indian teachers in my university, but at the same time I wanted few natives to talk to learn from them, because a lot of language, or any language for that matter, when you learn by listening something on the television, on the internet, maybe while reading or while talking. So I wanted to talk so that they could correct me and I could pick up few words from them. So I was getting the perfect place to talk to native people, and I had those native teachers in a private institute. The second advantage is that all in all, it is a great package learning a language at an institute. Why? Because the classrooms were only of 15 students. They did not allow more than 15 students, 12 to 15 students. We had a big television so that we could watch movies over there, we could do listening exercises, we could watch short films, great Wi-Fi and great atmosphere. Teachers were very engaging. We had cultural activities happening in these institutes. So all in all, it was a better package if you compare it to a university where teacher would come, give those classes and go away. Teachers, they did not engage much, or they did not really focus on speaking. But on the other hand, in these institutes, they will focus on your speaking and listening part. They make sure that you are speaking, and the way that they mark you is your class performance, your Monday test sort of a thing that we had, and your final exam, so and attendance and how well you are engaging in the class. So they were marking you in a very different way compared to, let's say, a university like DU, JNU, where they will only mark you on the final exam that they give you. So they would make sure that either you are learning a language or otherwise they would just fail you. So all in all, if you're interested in learning a language, a better place for sure. Something that was a con for a university is a pro for these private institutes. Let's say tomorrow I do not want to learn Spanish. I can quit that level anytime because languages are divided into levels A1, A2, B1, B2. Let's say after the A2 level I decide I do not want to learn language, or maybe I want to learn French. Just because these languages are divided into levels and sub modules, what happens, you have to register yourself again, you have to give the fees again, you are assigned a new teacher, and so on and so forth. So let's say after one level you do not want to learn a language, you can just quit and walk away. You know a language till A1, A2, whatever level you study. So another great advantage. If not interested, you can leave at any moment. तारीफ़ें हो गई बहुत सारी. Now let's talk about what are the cons. Disadvantages क्या हैं languages सीखने के institute में. So the first disadvantage that I see is, like, it was not a disadvantage for me, but it is a disadvantage for majority of people in India, is that these institutes, these embassy institutes are expensive. Majority of India cannot afford it, and it is very difficult to find. Like, even I would agree that it is very difficult to find good institute with a nominal fee in India. Like, if you want to study at these institute, you have to pay that premium money or price or whatever you want to call it. So you have to pay the fee. I think when I was learning Spanish in 2014, in 2015 in Cervantes, the fee was 12,000 for one module. For one level it will be 30,000, 35,000, and for, let's say, 2 years till B2 C1 level, it will cost you around anywhere between 1.5 to 2 lakhs. It would not seem much to you, it did not seem much to me, but for majority of India this can be really expensive. So it is a disadvantage if you are somebody who's interested in learning a language. The second and the last disadvantage that you have when you're learning a language at an institute is that batch time. Just because after every level you have to pay the fee again, you are assigned a teacher one more time, it's a different teacher, so it's many a times it is very difficult to find the perfect timing or the perfect batch for yourself. Sometimes you have your weekends batch, sometimes you have a weekdays batch, and maybe you're a working professional, or maybe you're studying something at a university. So finding that perfect batch or the time slot, it is very difficult. And a lot of people that are taking private classes for me were earlier learning Spanish at Cervantes, and they left Cervantes because these guys are working and they could not match the batch timing, because they could only learn a language either on weekends or after the working hours, which all these institutes do not offer. After, I think, 6 p.m. there are no classes, and on the weekends they have certain timings. So those batch timings can be a problem for a lot of people. Not a very massive disadvantage, but yes, a lot of people miss out on learning a language because of the schedule that they have and what these institutes are offering to you. Now let's talk about my opinion. Where do I feel you should learn a language? Well, if money is not a question, let's say if money did not exist and there was no fee, I would say learn a language at an institute, because overall you, by the end of 2 years or 2.5 years, you would be able to speak in that language better, you will be able to understand that language better, you will have more cultural knowledge about whatever language you're learning, you have more desire to maybe travel to that country. So overall, learning a language at an institute is way better than learning a language at a university. That is my opinion. Why? Because I have learned Spanish at a university and at an institute, and my experience was way better at an institute than a university. And if you feel I missed out on any point, any pro or any con, please leave a comment down below. Also like the video. So till the next one, adios. So guys, if you're enjoying the videos, please consider subscribing to the channel.